A Ledger Bitcoin hardware wallet got hacked, and a Bitcoin user lost over $1.5 million in Bitcoin. This whole thing is spreading rapidly on social media right now. We're going to look into whether your Bitcoin holdings are at risk now and what's going on, because there's a massive panic in the Bitcoin community right now. In addition, the official Bitcoin holdings of the Swiss National Bank were leaked, and you can see here that they own more than 1,000 Bitcoin. Of course, they don't own this Bitcoin in a hardware wallet or in self-custody. It's through financial vehicles. But it's still pretty surprising that they have indirect exposure to Bitcoin. Before we take a look at the Ledger Bitcoin hack and whether your Bitcoin holdings are at risk, I have a small request for you. And I'm currently working on something that will absolutely take your Bitcoin strategy to the next level. Something that definitely doesn't exist in this form in the Bitcoin space yet, and I need your help with it. I want to ask you a few personal questions to make sure that what I'm preparing for you fits you perfectly. As a thank you, you'll be the first ones to have the chance to use this. Just click the link in the first comment in the video description below. There, you can book a quick call with me or a team member from our team. 2001, it's completely free and won't cost you anything. But now we really need to dive into Ledger. Are hardware wallets now vulnerable? The very short answer is no. As long as you don't make any mistakes in how you use it, as long as you don't make any grossly negligent errors while using a hardware wallet, all hardware wallets, whether it's a Trezor, a Bitbox, or a Ledger, are still definitely safe. But what's happening here now and what's going viral on social media is serious because it's a danger that shouldn't be underestimated. Careless handling of a hardware wallet can lead to massive losses. As you can see here, a Ledger Bitcoin hardware wallet user reported a loss of 10 Bitcoin, which is about $1 million that were stored on a Ledger Nano S hardware wallet. The user bought the device directly from Ledger, the seed phrase was stored securely, and it was never entered online. And no malicious transactions were signed. He also says that he hasn't touched this Ledger in 2 months, so he pretty much did everything right that you can do. He didn't share the passwords from his Ledger with anyone, nor did he share the seed phrase, which is the 24 recovery words, with anyone. He also didn't sign any malicious transactions or anything like that. At least that's what this Ledger hardware wallet user officially claims. He didn't share the passwords from his Ledger with anyone, nor did he share the seed phrase, which is the 24 recovery words, with anyone, and he didn't sign any malicious transactions or anything like that. Those are at least the official statements from this Ledger hardware wallet user. And now, of course, a lot of people are wondering, okay, is the Ledger hardware wallet defective? Can it be hacked? Because how can that be? For example, I stored my 24 words somewhere in the bunker or buried them somewhere in the garden or something. How on earth can a hacker get to my hardware wallet, which is password protected? How can someone crack the password and then just send the Bitcoin that's on the hardware wallet to another hardware wallet? And it's quite straightforward and easy to understand. Users have found out, as you can clearly see here in the detailed community notes, that this user actually signed a phishing transaction or a malware transaction, or just a malicious transaction a few years ago, like approximately 3 years ago, that in fact gave the hacker access to his Bitcoin, which ultimately compromised his security. So you really need to be careful about which transactions you sign. Additionally, it can always happen that if you, for example, exposing passwords or recovery words publicly, like on a camera, can lead to delayed hacks. Hackers may wait years to exploit when more Bitcoin is on the wallet. For 2 or 3 years, nothing happens, just like now, where nothing seems to happen for 2 or 3 years. The hackers sometimes wait until even more Bitcoin is on the hardware wallet, and then they use the hack they pulled off 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years later, 5 years later, or even 10 years later. And the user says, wow, I haven't touched the hardware wallet in 2 months. I haven't done anything with the hardware wallet. How could I get hacked? Yeah, it came out, and you can see it here in the blockchain entries, that the hack actually happened 3 years ago and that it wasn't a hardware failure, but a user error. And we see this again and again, that the hardware wallets are secure, but the hardware wallets are used carelessly, that passwords are then revealed, that phishing transactions or something like that are signed. So you really need to pay attention to what you're signing on your hardware wallet's display. Make sure to check what's on the screen. That's what you have the display for on a hardware wallet. I would never recommend using a hardware wallet without a display. So you really need to be careful not to sign any wrong transactions or anything like that. So only send money to people you can trust, and only send out transactions that you verified are correct. If an attacker manages to get a malicious transaction signed, they can withdraw funds from the wallet because the signature considers the transaction approved by the owner, and that can happen even 2 or 3 years later or something like that. You can protect yourselves by, for example, splitting your Bitcoin across 2 or 3 hardware wallets. For example, You have a ledger, you have a bitbox, you have another dresser, or you can also protect yourselves by creating a passphrase, which acts as an additional subwallet. So it's like a 25th word. For example, somehow in 2001, he just says, okay, I have one Bitcoin sitting on my main wallet, so I'll set up my passphrase wallet. 25th word added. Forget passphrase, lose Bitcoin. You have to enter a word for the 24 words. But I'd say that's really only for experts, because if you mess something up and forget the passphrase, then all your Bitcoin is gone again. So that's something you can still do to protect yourself against such hacks. Here, at least you can protect yourself against a total loss, or you just follow the general guidelines like in 2001, such as don't show anyone the 24 recovery words, don't show anyone the passwords, and also don't sign any malicious transactions. So you really shouldn't let yourself get scared by these kinds of stories, like horror stories about someone losing 1.5 million Bitcoin or something. Most of the time, it's really user errors, and in the end, that's what matters, getting familiar with the subject. Bitcoin means self and personal responsibility. You're responsible for your own money. You can't just call up a bank later and say, hey, sorry bro, I accidentally signed the wrong transaction. Even if you, for example, have a small typo, e.g. you send a transaction somewhere, I don't know, and if there's a small typo in the long Bitcoin address, then your Bitcoin is just gone. You have to check very clearly that every digit is correct here. Every digit is crucial. That's why I highly recommend always using copy and paste. Never just type the numbers out, because that's where mistakes can really happen. And that is ultimately the most common reason why Bitcoin is lost. Not through crazy stories or anything like that, but through people simply using Bitcoin incorrectly. Entered the wrong address, carelessly showed passwords, thinking they were stored safely, but then the janitor snapped a quick photo of the passwords or the 24 recovery words, put them back under the rock or in the hiding spot, and then you think you're safe for 3 years. But suddenly, after 5 years or so, the janitor walks off with all the Bitcoin. I'll also drop a link below to a Trezor hardware wallet. In my opinion, this is one of the safest and best hardware wallets available on the market. I highly recommend it. With the code Bitcoin Hotel, you can also get up to 10% off the purchase of a hardware wallet. Another thing you can do to take your security to the next level is to set up a multi-signature wallet, so that you can E.G. You could say, okay, I have 3 hardware wallets, and the Bitcoin can only be transferred if at least 2 out of the 3 hardware wallets confirm the transaction. But that's definitely more suited for pros, not really for beginners. And now something really interesting came out from the Swiss National Bank. And it was leaked or published how much Bitcoin the Swiss National Bank actually owns. So there's this Bitcoin initiative in Switzerland, and they're working to keep Bitcoin in the central bank or to hold it here in Switzerland. They're generally pushing to promote Bitcoin, making it legal tender here, or setting up a Bitcoin reserve or something like that. So Switzerland has Bitcoin, but they don't hold it directly. They hold it indirectly. And now it was revealed in which vehicles Switzerland holds Bitcoin. And here we have 1 or 2. Actually, there are 8 vehicles, or 8 stocks, through which Switzerland is indirectly invested in Bitcoin. Let's take a look at this. So, first off, we have MicroStrategy, which has almost Bitcoin. Then there's Tesla, which also has nearly Bitcoin, Riot, which holds Bitcoin, and Block, which has about 8,000 Bitcoin. Then there's Mara Holdings, which has almost Bitcoin, Hut 8 Corporation, which has nearly 9,000 Bitcoin, Bitfarms with 1,000 Bitcoin, and CleanSpark with just under 9,000 Bitcoin. So we have 8 relevant Bitcoin players here, and the Swiss National Bank is invested in each of these 8 key Bitcoin players. That's what's so exciting. If MicroStrategy comes to the NASDAQ, then a lot of other people here will also be indirectly invested in Bitcoin via the NASDAQ. They don't have direct Bitcoin exposure. Not your keys, not your coins. You don't own Bitcoin. Technically true, but people say, if I have Bitcoin stock, MicroStrategy stock, or a Bitcoin ETF, I own Bitcoin. Honestly, you only own Bitcoin with the keys. If you look at it super precisely, that's true, but colloquially people say, hey, if I have a Bitcoin stock, or if I have a MicroStrategy stock, or if I have a Bitcoin ETF, then I own Bitcoin too. But to be honest, if we're being really precise with the definition, you only truly own the Bitcoin when you have the keys. And that's why I understand the criticism here. But what's really interesting is that Switzerland is massively invested in Bitcoin. Bitcoin and all of this is that the number of Bitcoin is going to skyrocket, whether it's through the S&P, MicroStrategy, or other vehicles. More and more companies are going to join in. You also have to mention that since 2021, the Swiss National Bank has been diversifying its Bitcoin purchases. They just buy the relevant stocks worldwide, and of course, they keep picking up Bitcoin companies along the way. You also have to mention that since 2021, the Swiss National Bank has been diversifying its Bitcoin purchases. They simply buy the relevant stocks worldwide, and then, of course, Bitcoin companies are also bought from time to time. So, as I understand it, they don't have a specific Bitcoin strategy where they're heavily investing in something like MicroStrategy or anything like that. They just buy a diversified portfolio. If you still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link below to 21 Bitcoin, the easiest way to buy Bitcoin in Europe. 2001, absolute recommendation with the code Bitcoin Hotel. You can get up to 20% off the fees. And let me know down below if you're worried about your Bitcoin, or are you really fully self-sovereign and know exactly how to use a hardware wallet or not. See you, don't stress out, take care, peace out.